Hello everyone. Today I'm going to share with you my experiences in learning classical Chinese and why I think it's important. And don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with these books again, but I'd like to share with you some of my own personal experiences and why I think it's important to study classical Chinese. And if you're studying classical Chinese, I think it's a great thing. You should definitely keep going. And I'm going to tell you in this video why I think it's important to study classical Chinese. And just to cover a bit of background information about myself. I was actually raised in Australia when I was a kid, and as you might have guessed, English was actually the main language that I used when I was in Australia. And when I moved back to Hong Kong, when I was 7, I had to study Chinese at school, and I was actually at that time I was actually more accustomed to English than Chinese, and so at that time my Chinese really sucked, and I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I'm actually more of a math and science student, and literature is really just a pastime for me. But still, at that time my Chinese really sucked, and I didn't really pay a lot of attention to it. But that all changed when I was in grade 9. From grade 1 to grade 6, we didn't have to study classical Chinese, but we did starting from grade 7. And at that time, I naturally hated classical Chinese. It was really hard. I thought it was stupid. It was useless, and naturally I resisted it. And it all changed when I was in grade 9. I started to reflect on myself, and at that time I just thought I really sucked at my own language. After all, I'm actually a native Chinese speaker, and it really sucked knowing that I sucked at my own language, and so it kind of motivated me to try harder. And at that time, I started to read some classical Chinese books, and even for me as a native Chinese speaker, it was really hard, but I kept going, and at first, the benefits from reading classical Chinese weren't really that obvious, but as time went on, it started started to become clearer. And in a practical level, the benefits you can achieve from classical Chinese is, I think, you can uh, get a true understanding of how Chinese works. I know classical Chinese and modern Chinese has many significant differences, and people at school, my friends at school, they usually think classical Chinese is an obsolete way of using Chinese, and most of them think it's really, useless to study classical Chinese. But based on my experiences, I think that's totally untrue. Uh, Although modern Chinese and classical Chinese are different, the uh, the foundations of modern Chinese are actually predicated on classical Chinese. So if you get the hang of classical Chinese, you get a whole new level of understanding of modern Chinese, and I think that's very important if you intend to study Chinese seriously, and that's a benefit on a practical level. On a kind of spiritual level, the things that you read in classical Chinese really expand your mind. You have books on philosophy like Zhuangzi and Lao Tzu and the Analects, and these philosophers from many different schools, they offer a lot of different ways to see things, to judge. And after reading these books, they really expand your mind, and you find yourself thinking in many new ways. And other books like 楚辞, 西经, Tongxi, these books on poetry, again, they expand your mind. It's these benefits aren't really that obvious when you start off, but as time goes on, they become apparent themselves. And I can tell you, I can tell you confidently that if you study classical Chinese, the benefits will be greater than you ever first imagined. And if you're studying classical Chinese, I think you should definitely keep going on. And I hope this video can motivate you to keep on studying classical Chinese. And I'll see you again next time. And in my next video, I'll probably do one of those explanation videos again. I know some of you have been asking me for those, so I'll probably do that next time, but I don't know when. And in the meantime, goodbye.